Was it, and now is that, are you working in, is that what it's called, computers, gonna be like, I don't know, catch up on his.
But yeah, she had said she had been talking to you and all that, because I asked her like this when I affect the meeting on Friday, like, just go to the meeting on Friday and it shouldn't affect that, you can just.
It'll,
Can you hear us? Oh,
hello. All right, Jeff.
Right.
Good, how are you?
That's one of all.
About 3 months this summer.
Roxanne? This is Kim. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. All right, so you guys are good to go.
Hey, Zach, how are you? This is Dan Barnes. He's in Barnes. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Is there something, what should we, that seems to be exposed?
How's everything at the city?
Yes.
Everything in Spikeville. Great. Getting better, I think, I hope.
We have to figure out how to get out of our own way. It's my diplomatic assessment.
That is a common trait of government.
Yes, yes. I read I read a really interesting, let me just remember what the title was here, because the title was fantastic. It was, advice from the CIA, how poor management can sabotage your workplace. And the article looks at early, 1900s operation by the CIA to sabotage or whatever. And the main argument of this article is that they said when they couldn't, but they decided they had this sort of doctrine that the way that you make things bad is you deliberate. You know? To put as many bureaucratic blocks for things to take place. And and I read that and I thought, that is what we unbeknownst to ourselves are doing. So
Curious how unbeknownst to it.
well, that's
Okay, good.
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. How's everything with you, Jen?
So
I think everything is hopefully gonna be going smoothly.
Because I was a product, or should have been called like a tax.
My optimistic belief is by the end of the month, we'll know what was put in jail, and that will make my life so much easier. It'll be,
That's great.
And,
but I am
but so I.
overly optimistic.
That needed injection molding.
It's just my personality.
So if you can.
That's great.
I think things are gonna go.
Size the material, you guys deal a lot.
Once
with
that's done.
And so, understanding what the.
Council's meeting
presents
next
are, and then
Friday to
it'd
talk
be nice
about
to understand your
project
capabilities all the way
budget.
from concept of.
those two things.
Back then it will be kind of thing
I
to,
think we can
all the way through.
get to the point where we can have
Potential fulfillment.
conversations
Because I run into people like that, or other people that we should.
moving forward as opposed to feeling like we're stuck in.
Is things explode.
Fantastic.
And the reason why, if you ever been in their plane, okay, so they do injection molding, but they make these lids and stuff and closures for lots of different types of food products. So it's a kind of food grade facility. They go,
Ship one of my kids off to college and on this.
Wow, where are they going?
movies and stuff like
Oh,
that.
that's great. What are they majoring in?
What happens is.
She wants to go, eventually she wants to be a physical therapist.
Right.
Great,
Okay.
okay.
She's gonna be a kinesiology
Makes sense.
person. She's gonna play softball for him. Pretty excited.
No.
Even though
Jeff, what makes you think I would know words like that?
Because we all know.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I just want to confirm that Greg is
Which ones do you?
Greg Travis, it just says Greg.
Did you spell them?
See, A Greg there.
Yeah.
Ask him now, he wasn't, he hadn't.
Greg, is that you, Greg Travis? Oh, he's muted. Now he's unmuted. I cannot hear him.
Oh, it looks like we're muted.
Oh. That could be a problem.
Keep talking, Greg, so we trying to fix the audio. Just to see if you can hear us.
Hey, Roxanne, did you say something? I heard your.
Hello, yes, I promoted him. Let me know if you can't unmute, Greg, so I can try promoting you again and see if that works. I have the chat on, so you should be able to let me know.
Maybe that Greg isn't the Greg we're looking for. Like, why is everybody asking me questions? Just wanted to come to a public meeting.
I think we're having audio issues with Greg.
I'll be a verification person.
Tried driving on his phone. But we don't know if he can hear us is the issue. We have his number.
I don't know.
Let's see. About him or?
Right to the shoot.
Yeah, Greg
Well, he's
can't.
there. We're having trouble with it. We can proceed because you two are a quorum. Right, and so hopefully he can hear.
Maybe he could sign off and then sign back on.
Yeah, but we don't, it doesn't seem like he can hear us
That
because
helps.
we've made such suggestions.
Oh,
And yeah, I don't know if he can hear us at all. He may not be able to see the chat either if he's on a browser. Can you forcibly unmute him or something?
I cannot. I am on a browser though, so he should be able to see the chat. I'm not sure though. why he's not unmuting.
Well, I defer to the president's judgment here.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order. My name is Fred Schultz. I'm president of the Monroe County Economic Development Commission. We're here on Friday, August 9th, 2024 for a noon meeting that's been properly posted for public attendance and comment. And the first thing we're going to do is call a roll call of the three members of the commission. Fred Schultz.
Isa Kasari, present.
I'll just note that it appears that Greg Travis is here virtually, but we are unable to communicate with him at this point in time. Hopefully that they'll get that figured out prior to voting, and hopefully he can hear what's being said.
Correct. All right, so next on our agenda is we have a review of tax abatement compliance forms. I have two forms, both regarding Baxter Pharmaceutical, and I will turn the floor over to our esteemed counsel to talk with us about the forms.
And there should be, you should have houses as well.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
have it back there. So, okay, thank you.
So
Fabulous.
I think essentially this is kind of a uncharted territory for us. We have two companies who missed the May filing deadline. And so when we did our review in June, they weren't part of that. My interpretation of state code is that the county council can waive that late filing if they so choose. But I do think they want you to kind of review it and weigh in on that as well. That if you look at the kind of proposed approval, it actually has 3 boxes instead of 2. One is that the tax abatement, you approve the tax abatement compliant forms and you recommend excusing the late filing. You recommend the approval, approve the tax abatement plan with no recommendation excusing the late filing, or you reject the tax abatement compliance forms, essentially saying, hey, they're late. So those are kind of your guys' 3 questions or 3 answers to the one question. I will tell you that looking through the compliance forms and comparing them with the SB1, Calcis's SB1 had they are above in compliance. I think they were to add 10 individual or 8 individuals, and they've added 10. Baxter's were to add 14 at one location, or they've added 14, and they were supposed to add 20 at one location. However, at the other location, they were supposed to add 25 employees, and they've added 340. So if you look at those together, it's a net increase over what they promised of over 330 employees. The salaries are also higher than what were on their SB1s for all the positions. So,
And looking at the taxes form, it's so there. The SB1 was 8 and the actual was 18. So
So it's an additional 10
Yeah.
over the 8, yes.
Okay.
sorry, I did not.
That's okay.
I knew we were some time. I knew.
So,
Do we have representatives for either of them with us or online or?
So I'm Dan Barnes. I'm the Director of Finance at TASIS.
Nice to meet you, Dan.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for being here. So, any thoughts, comments?
Thanks, number one, for letting me be here. My main concern is that this didn't happen in a timely manner. We've had some leadership changes over the last number of years at TASIS, and I've been in the Director of Finance position for a year. I've updated our monthly cadence so that this is part of our monthly review of what tax forms or any type of legal forms that we need to file. That's in our cadence, and it's on a number of folks' monthly cadence. So we've even been redundant in that matter. The progress that we've made in this facility continues to have momentum. So we're doing really, really well there. And I just want to make sure that whatever you folks need us to do to be in compliance, that I take that away today.
Questions for, from any of the members of the commission?
I have a question for council. This is 2021 was the first, was when this was granted?
Yes.
And what's the window of completion or compliance?
Each one of our ERAs, with one exception, which is basically the old GE building has it. It's just different.
Yep.
They have a 5-year window to install the equipment. It's a 5-year economic revitalization area.
Mhm.
So they have that 5-year window. So they met that 5-year window as far as placement of the equipment.
For the record too, I'd also note that the anticipated salary is higher than what the estimated SB one was too, so.
So they've exceeded additional employees by 10 and exceeded the amount paid by almost $1, 70 cents or something.
So, okay, and, thank you for being here. Dan, I really appreciate you taking the time to come, and thank you for explaining what you guys are doing. Thank you.
3 individuals in the teams meeting, and
Yeah, so you have David Lambiaso, Matt Ladashong, and all those 3 are for the Centra Baxter.
okay, so we do have representatives from the other
Okay.
company that is.
And also, council, a question for you, Mr. Cockrell. So 2021, so this goes through 2026.
Well, that's when that's the time period they have to place the
Right.
equipment.
And they've already done that.
And they've done
Yeah.
that. So then once that'll trigger a 10-year abatement. So
Okay, okay, got it.
The abatement will be for 10.
Fantastic. What bearing does the decision that we have now have on the 10-year abatement?
Essentially, they lose year 1.
Okay, and what is the council, has the commission done in the past when people have been late? Is this the first time that
This is the first time since in the time I've handled this, that this has occurred where someone missed the filing deadline and ended up filing. And we've had people miss the filing deadline that were in year like 8 or 9 of the abatement, which isn't as important as year 1. But this is also really the first time that I'm aware of where we've had, and I think when Baxter speaks, and I know this because I just went through the tax abatement process, they just kind of revamped their entire ownership structure.
Right.
And so, I think similar changes in leadership has had that one fall through their cracks as well. And so it's really the first time that situation has ever come to our attention as being relevant to what we look at.
Mhm.
Great.
So if you would, oh,
Greg, are you able to hear us? Greg Travis.
Now we at least know it's him.
Greg Travis, are you able to hear us or able to communicate with us? Reminds me of a scene from up there.
Yes, exactly.
All right. All right, so Greg
Oh,
is communicating now.
Wait, they're gonna if they can, yay,
Roxanne, can you?
can you elevate him now?
Yes, I did promote him, but I can try it again.
He says his mic is disabled.
Try again. If it doesn't work, let me know and I can try something else.
Golden moment, Greg, try now. Oh no. He's trying, but then it's not letting him do it. It's still saying both camera and mic have been disabled. Right.
All right. Greg, were you, unfortunately, you may have to type this out. Do you have any questions? Were you able to hear the conversation, with, Dan Barnes from TASIS? And do you have any questions for him if you were able to hear that?
For the record, we do like you.
Yeah.
While he's typing it, should we let the Baxter folks?
Yes, yeah, all right. So yeah, I think that's, Isaac made a very good point, for purposes of continuing the things on.
He has no questions, good.
All right, I want to turn our attention to the Baxter compliance forms and thank you for the team from Baxter for attending. Whomever would like to just say a few words or kind of bring us up to speed on your application and whatnot. Happy to have you here and happy to talk with you about it.
Yeah, I can get started. This is David Lembier. So it's good to see you guys again. I know that saw a few of you a few months ago, and then obviously earlier in the year, and appreciate all the support for the other expansion projects that are occurring at the site. So and Clark and I have synced quite a bit on this, and so he can help paint the picture. But as I'm being brought up to speed and assisting Matt and team through this process for this tax filing and going through everything, it was clear a number of things. Obviously, the biggest one being transition. So, you know, we're here because of the misfiling, and appreciate everyone taking the time to talk with us. And really that is the biggest challenge that was caused for the misfiling was the transition that occurred, with a number of other things, but in generally large transition from the management side. And this was something that was brought to our attention. Obviously through the process, while going through it, there was a number of other things that we identified that we wanted to bring to your attention. This project obviously has had gross success on the employment hiring side. But as part of that, there's also a lot of other elements that were one we wanted to bring to your attention just on the inflationary side of this project from a cost standpoint, as well as we all may have experienced from other avenues of life coming out of the pandemic, just lead time and completion struggle that the project has really had. And just wanted to kind of meet with everyone, talk through that, and just make sure everyone's aware of the challenges and love to work through this. And obviously bring more success to the community through job growth, and the continued investment in the community. Clark, did you want to add anything?
Well, I wanted to also kind of point out that with Mr. Ladishaw on the line and Ming Chow also on the line, they are part of the tax team that oversee all this, and so they are paying particular attention to this to make sure that procedures are put in place so this doesn't reoccur. They've been instrumental in making sure that they understand the process and paying close attention to that. But just to emphasize some of the things that we saw, during that time of growth and expansion with COVID there, ordering the equipment, getting that all in on time, and then being able to put that in. Those are things that were really created some of the challenges on that. And if you look at it this year, at the 927 Curry Pike, we're going to put about $14.6 million in capital equipment there, which is substantial. At that same location, that was last year. At this year, they're going to put about $25.9 million in there combined. And then over at the Daniels Way, it's going to be about $7 million there. And then another $11 million plus in 2025. Substantial investments. And when you look at what they originally asked for, it's about $40 million. Now this is gonna swell up to be about $58 million total loss. So they've exceeded not just their headcount, but also their capital investment in that. And that was, if you look at it also, there was some inflation during that time. We all know, and we've experienced ourselves that during that growth, there were some other substantial costs that added to that just due to the build times and material costs spiking, and then that transition. So we certainly support their initiatives, their efforts, their current ongoing effort to expand, and the same thing for TASIS as well. Just the continued growth. We have two great organizations that are really looking to support the community, and I think I would like to see a EDC commission support the continued growth and expansion of these by approving these CF1s.
Thank you. Question, in terms of the two projects, so the syringe inspection and then the syringe filling line, with the point that you're making about inflationary pressures and challenges, do we still expect? I'm sorry if this background has already been established, but have you already finished that investment, or is that still to be completed?
Clark, if you don't mind, I can go
Yes.
just to add some. So it is still ongoing. And so to that point, there's discussions on what is the appropriate timeline. So as well as dollar amount, just because there is concerns for just the nature of the business that it could be extended. While it's anticipated to finish in 25 with the $58 million total capital and costs, there's concerns that it may bleed into 26, and then potential increase above the $58 million. So, and I appreciate the question because that's something that we discuss, and obviously just seeing it from the project so far, how much it's exceeded and how much duration, additional time it's taken. There's obviously been challenges. That line of sight is better, but those buyouts and that security of delivery times are not finished.
Right. And then what impact does a either delay or a failure to complete that have on the other underlying? Because I mean, obviously you've exceeded sort of what was stated on the SB1 for employees in terms of well exceeded salaries, et cetera, also retention. But if this doesn't get completed, or if once it gets completed, do you see there being a shift either positively or negatively in those numbers? And sorry, the camera's
I don't
here.
think I don't think anything. Okay. I don't see anything negatively. I mean, it's going to be negative in regards of it's going to cost more money, and that's just the way inflation goes, right? And take a little bit more time. But the intent is to bring people on to be part of the projects and then to roll into commercialization of the lines themselves to make sure that they can support the manufacturing capability for the life-saving materials.
So then realistically, you think your projection would be that you'd continue to hire more people as those lines come online?
Correct. Yeah, they'll be continue hiring. Now, there's also, the initiative for H where there's a lot of hiring that will happen as well.
Of course.
This campus in general is seeing hyper growth though right now.
Yep.
And you can see it through the continuation of these projects and the continued investment in that, as well as the growth within the new facility.
Okay. And then one question for council is that if there's a delay at the end of 2025, so this time next year, well, a bit earlier, because they will submit it on time. But this time next year, if they haven't yet finished the line, what impact does that have on their tax abatement, or are we only interested in the employment and salary investments?
Well, historically, we've only been invested, or we've only really looked at the employment incentive.
Makes sense.
That's historically how we've done. I think one of the things we're going to talk with the county council is to change our memorandum of understanding with Baxter to kind of talk about the additional investment, and then also the kind of the time frame as well. I think even with their revised schedule, they're still within that 5-year window.
Yep.
So we don't have to really necessarily change that, I historically, I think Phoenix, Lazarus, that group actually got an abatement prior to the pandemic. Pandemic hit, and so they weren't able to meet that 5-year window. So we went to the county council to kind of get a new timeline set. And so if that were to become an issue, I think that would be the process, is that we would kind of go ahead and go through the economic revitalization area designation process, which is kind of that 2-month preliminary final approval that we do for virtually all our tax abatements. And so we would just have to redo that process, and the council would have another opportunity to approve or not that action.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Any other comment or? So I guess in my mind, in the legal world, sometimes we would refer to what I see and the parties presenting as what I'll refer to as substantial compliance. And that certainly we all make mistakes, but it's excusable. And when things are excusable and when the parties acknowledge them and present the information, and the information is actually better than what they had promised. I for one would feel very comfortable with excusing the late filing, allowing the abatements to proceed as scheduled.
And you would say substantial only because of the lateness. So had it
Right.
been on time, you would have said.
We would have,
Yeah.
right, there'd be no issue, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I would agree.
So, would Greg Travis bark twice if you can hear us? So I think that's from Anchorman, Legend of Ron Burgundy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Greg, do you have any thoughts that you bark? So, all right, well, I would, we need to have a vote. Are we able to do this? We have one form in front of us. I would move that the commission approve both Baxter and Tassus tax abatement compliance forms, excusing the late filing and allowing the abatements to proceed.
Yeah, we have to roll call. Oh, second. Oh, actually, Greg seconded it.
Okay. All right, now roll call. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye.
Well, that's
roll
not
call,
the
yeah.
roll
Oh, man, come on.
Yeah.
Fred Schultz.
Fred Schultz,
Yeah.
Isaac Asari,
Yes.
and I will ask Greg Travis for the vote, but I will say that since he can't be seen and heard, it's not technically official. And he has indicated aye, so we will make sure that the council is aware that that's what happened, but it's not a official vote. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, sir.
And I sincerely appreciate everyone's attendance and input. And to me, one of the most important things about this process is the communication between our various businesses in the community and the county. And we really do appreciate hearing what you all are doing, and we very much appreciate everything you do for the citizens of our community. So, all right. Now, what's next is on the agenda is a review of the economic development target area request. And I believe this is for Steinville.
Yes, and I will give kind of the background.
Sure.
Steinsville is a very old community. It's got a lot of interesting buildings. It has been, and I believe I sent this out to you.
Yeah.
It has been designated I forward you the Steinsville Historic District National Register of Historic Places map. I will note that the properties we're talking about are kind of in the middle, by the 02, but the arrow is pointing the wrong way. It's that kind of 3 or 4 of those buildings that are all located next to each other.
Yeah.
I've sent pictures there. The facades of them are beautiful and clearly took a lot of work, and it reflects the limestone industry in that area. And in order, and the town of Steinsville has someone interested in rehabilitating those facilities for use
Mhm.
while maintaining the historic character of them. In order for them to give any kind of tax incentive or anything like that, they have to call it an economic development target area because the end use is not anticipated to be any kind of manufacturing or industrial use. It is to be retail, maybe potential housing, those kinds of uses. And in order for an economic development target area to be designated by the town of Steinsville, an economic development commission has to recommend the approval of that action, right? So you guys would have, and Steinsville does not have an economic development commission, so that's why it's coming to the county. There are a few triggers that have to occur before an economic.
You must have a lot to say on this one, huh?
I will continue talking and if Greg can just talk and chime in while I'm talking, I will, oh, there he is.
Yay.
Travis,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, wonders of technology.
So there are a couple hurdles that need to be overcome before before the town of Steinsville can do it.
Mhm.
The criteria include that it's registered on the National Register of Historic Places. And that it contains less than 15% of the unit's land area. And in this case, I did the calculation and it's less than 1%. So it's like 0.2% of the entire town of Steinsville. Town of Steinsville is about 70 acres and this is 0.19 acre area. And so those are kind of the two big requirements that have to be met to do this. I included photos to show you the current condition of the building. I can tell you that when this one was, and I'm talking about where I look through the window and you look up and you see the sky and the rafters, so that is probably, I would guess, the worst of the buildings. But the other ones are also have plants and things in it and lack roofs and lack full roofs. And so there's a lot of work to be done here. And so they have someone interested in doing the rehabilitation. Clearly, this is probably more of a labor of love for the guy than it is an actual profit-making activity, but he also clearly wants to make a profit. And so the request is for you guys to go ahead and say, this looks like it should be an economic development target area. We recommend that to the town of Steinsville, and then the town of Steinsville will go through the actual tax abatement process where they will do designate an ERA and go through that kind of analysis of whether that makes sense for that community. This is just kind of a trigger to get them into that conversation.
So any abatement that they would receive would be from the town of Steinsville, not from Monroe County?
Correct. Just like the city of Bloomington does their own tax abatements, each municipality can do their own tax abatements. We're here because they don't have an economic development.
And what is the realm of action that we can take here? It's just recommend, don't recommend, or is it, recommend with thoughts, or like what's
I
the?
think you can recommend with thoughts. I think what the statute indicates is that a economic development commission has to approve the economic target area. And in this document, I put the entire parcel as the economic development target area. I imagine as they go through their process, it will shrink because it includes a building that's already in really good shape and is already operating as a business. So the abatement really wouldn't help them. But I think they would shrink the description of the property to 3 or 4 of these
Specific parcels.
specific buildings. Because, and that's kind of something that I'm gonna have to work with Steinsville's attorney on, and how do we get that described in such a way that makes sense for what's going on, because it's a row of 5 different buildings, but they all have common walls, so it's all on one parcel, and that's a historic issue that we're gonna have to figure out how to get through. But I think that the general premise is they've got really 4 beautifully fronted buildings that are just in such disrepair that it's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of capital to get into working condition, and that it would be, I think that would, we have a town council member here.
Okay.
He could tell me if I'm wrong, that it would be a great benefit to the community, to have those things renovated and into a position where they can actually be enjoyed by the people who live there.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna ask you to introduce yourself, sir, and thank you for being here and share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, I'm Richard Carter. I'm on the Steinville Town Council. Yeah, basically the row of limestone buildings on Main Street in town. I mean, I'll be 45 years old this November and I've never seen all but one be functional. So
Right.
that would be something that would be pretty cool. I mean, the town owns all the buildings currently outside of where the mercantile's at. That's privately owned. This guy is interested in buying them for $1. So one of the buildings was owned by somebody who was previously on the town council.
Okay.
And he deeded it to the town with certain stipulations. Well, our attorney's looking back through all that stuff and has found out that we're just gonna deed that back to him and let him take that. So the town essentially will own 3 of the 5 buildings that are there. At one time, it's my understanding they were all individually parceled. But since the town owned them, the county just combined them all as the one property and just put them under one parcel. So we're working with our town attorney and I guess it'd be the assessor's office to try to get them separated back to individual parcels. Because the gentleman who's buying them, he's wanting, basically he want to just repair them one at a time instead of just doing it all at one time. So that's basically where we're at. He's gonna take the best building, the one that's gonna be the least cost effective, I mean, the most cost effective to fix. That's the one he's gonna start with and then going down the line.
Well, I agree entirely that, town of Steinsville has, a great history and, it sounds like to me, a very interesting project and if, from a county, economic development commission standpoint, if the county's not even gonna bear the cost of the abatement, then really it's just something for us to encourage, development in. So.
And why not also include like there's those, I'm just looking at maps that Google map here, like there's that nice park across the street and another nice building sort of similar to the one that we're talking about. Like, why not make a larger area than just the sort of 4 or 5 rows there?
The one across the street from the row of buildings is actually a residence.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, so it's not even a business for somebody living.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And then I don't know if we can, that'd be a question for council, if you can, I don't know if we can make it park a business economic
Right.
development or not.
I think you can make an economic development target area, but is it owned by the town?
Yeah, the park is owned by the town.
So there's no tax abatement, it's that, right? Because the town doesn't pay
Yeah, we
tax.
don't get
That's
money
right.
on
That makes sense. That makes sense. Good. Don't have any other questions.
Greg, any questions, comments, thoughts?
Sure, a dispatch from a guy who lives in a 175-year-old house. I remember when those buildings in Steinville actually had a roof on them. And so, my only comment is I wish that we had something like this brought to us every single time we had an EDC meeting. So I'm completely in support of it.
Right. And it is a historical building, right? So this won't counteract or anything like that, the historical nature of the place.
He will have to go through the processes of review of, I believe by the state is who is going to review this for him on you know, his design and what changes he's gonna make.
I think I think we as the town council have already told him that like some of the stipulations that the Historical Landmark Society put on it, we really can't change the outside of the building or nothing like that.
Excellent. Excellent. Quite excited.
All right, so, Jeff, you have prepared a document, entitled Monroe County Economic Development Commission recommendation to Steinsville Town Council.
Yes.
Which in essence, would be, if we so voted, would be the recommendation to the town of Steinsville to create this.
Correct. This would satisfy the statutory requirement of an Economic Development Commission's approval of this, of putting this as an economic development target.
Okay, all right. Do we have a motion to approve this recommendation to Steinsville Town Council?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right. We will call a roll call vote. Look at me learning things.
Come on.
Commissioner Schultz,
Yes.
Commissioner Asari,
Yes.
Commissioner Travis.
Yes.
Motion is approved 3-0, and if you don't mind, Commissioner Travis, I'm gonna ask you, your vote on the previous item dealing with the tax abatements. You have a vote on that signature.
Do I say aye, yes, or other here?
You can say aye or abstain or nay.
Aye.
Okay, so that one is approved 3-0 as well.
Okay.
You can send both Fred and me to Robert's Rule of Order school.
That's right. That's right.
If one exists, I will look into it.
All right. All right. Are there any comments for the good of the order? Before I forget, Clark Reiner, thank you for being here and thank you for everything you do for, and your crew does for Monroe County. Any comments, any thoughts?
You've already voted, but I would be in whole support for the EDTA establishment. One of the things, the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation is paying particular attention to that west side. Over on Ellettsville and the west side of the county. I think Steinsville has a future role to play with that. And I think all the way from housing and I do love those buildings. I think they would bring added value to the community as they get developed. And so I think economic development targeted areas is a wonderful thing for at least give them the tools that they can do to plan and start to advance those programs forward. So I support it wholeheartedly.
Any other comments for the good of the order? All right. Then as a friend of mine who is an expert in Robert Rules of Order said, you don't need a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So
Thanks.
46.
Figure out.
Yeah, well, I think it was on his side rather than ours this time.